We're getting quarantined a lot, so I'm just recording. I don't have to. I'm just doing it so you can. Not all the time, but some of the time. Yeah. Okay. So guys, here's what's going on. I'm really not going to talk to you very much today. I'm going to do these 4 problems for you, and then I'm done. You think you can do 4 problems with me? Okay. All right. So earlier this week, well, I guess last week, we did adding polynomials. Yesterday we did subtracting polynomials. So the next couple of days we're going to do multiplying polynomials. There are some tips and tricks that we need to do here. We're going to build it from the ground up. So you might see this word right here. It's a weird looking word. It says monomial. Monomial, close. Monomial. Basically, guys, you don't really need to know what that means. It basically just means a small polynomial. So like this thing right here is a small polynomial. It's a monomial. It's one thing. Okay. So I'm going to show you how we multiply with these things. So let's say I have this 6a times 3 minus 7b. Well, when you have the parentheses and you're multiplying, what do you need to do with that? Distribute. So we're going to do a lot of distributing. I got to multiply it by both pieces. Okay? So I'm just going to do one thing at a time. So think numbers, then think variables. All right, so first let's do numbers. What's 6 times 3? 18. There's an a there, so it's just 18a, and that's it. All right, so there's the first one. Now I'm going to multiply it by the second piece. Again, think numbers first. 6 times negative 7, what's that? Negative 42, and then I have a times b. Well, those aren't the same variable, right? Yeah, it's just ab. They're not the same variable, so I can't like combine them. So if they're not the same variable, I just write them next to each other and I'm done. And that's all you do on that. That's it. Sometimes like some weird stuff is going to come up, and you'll see that in a second. But let's do another one real quick. Again, I got to distribute. So I'm going to multiply this by both of these things. And again, just take it one piece at a time. Think numbers, and then deal with the variables. So I got to do negative 3 times negative 5. What's that? Positive 15. NP. Why is it NP? They're not the same thing. Can't put them together, so there you go. Just write them next to each other. On to the next one. Negative 3 times 10. Numbers first. What's negative 3 times 10? Negative 30. And I have n and r to the fourth. So what am I going to write? N r to the fourth. Done. Not too bad, right? Yeah. The only way that you might need to do something else with this is if you have some like terms that you would need to combine. But since we don't, I can't put NP and NR to the fourth together, so we're done. Okay, let's look at 2 more. This is where things start to get a little bit different. Just one extra piece. So again, I'm going to distribute. I got to distribute it into 3 things. That's okay. We'll just do one piece at a time. All right, so I have negative x to the third times 8x. Well, again, think number first. Technically, there's a number in front of this thing. What is it? 1? You sure it's negative 1? There you go. So what's negative 1 times 8? Okay, so I have negative 8. And then I got numbers, and now I'm going to think about variables. It's x to the third times x. You got to think back to what we were doing in the last unit. There's all these rules, right? We're doing x to the third times x. Do you guys remember what the rule is here? Is there an exponent on this thing? There is. It's a 1. We just don't write it. So maybe you remember this rule. When you multiply them, what do you do with the numbers? You add them. So what's that going to be? X to the fourth. So there's the first piece. Now we keep going. -1 times -2. What's that? +2. And then we'll do variables next. X cubed times x. X to the fourth. X cubed times y. Can you, like, what's going to happen with the y? It's just down there. Again, you can't combine the y, so you just write it down there. Okay? And now we go on to the very next piece, the last one. -1 in front there times 6. -6, and it's x to the third times x squared. What's that? X to the fifth. Do you have any terms that are the same? Well, I've got x to the fourth right here, and I have an x to the fourth here. But this is not just x to the fourth, right? It's x to the fourth y. So I can't combine that with this because they're not exactly the same. That makes sense? So I can't do anything, and I'm done right there. Is this making a little bit of sense? All right, let's do one more. 4g squared h. This looks ugly, man. Guys, can you imagine if, think back to, do you remember what the first thing we did in this class was? Do you remember? It was adding whole numbers. Like, literally. We didn't even do decimals. Do you think that on the first day of school, if I told you someday you'll do this, what would you have said? But it's not that bad, right? It's not that bad. You guys have come a long way. All right, let's do it. Distribute, what do you think it is, Tyler? Okay. Yeah, you're really close. You're really close. So 4 times 11 is 44. G squared times G, what's that? G to the third. And I have H. So I need to put an H on there as well. Right? Next piece. 4 times 9 is 36. G squared. There's no other G here. Right? So it's just G squared. And then H times H, what's that? H squared. Now, these aren't the same. I know they both have a G and H, but it's not the same amount of G's and H's, right? This is G cubed. This is G squared. This is H squared. This is H. I can't put them together. If it was just GH on both of them, then I would be able to put them together, but I can't. So we're done.